The church was silent. "Do you take Daniela Williams to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "I do." Before the minister could continue, Park Min-jun laughed, not a nervous laugh, a real one. "Sorry, Reverend, I can't." Daniela's smile froze. "What?" Park Min-jun turned to the guests, to the phones already recording. Then he looked back at her. "You really thought I loved you?" His voice carried through the church. "This whole thing, the dates, the proposal, this wedding, it was a bet." Someone gasped. Others laughed. Daniela felt her legs weaken. $50,000 says I couldn't get the untouchable Daniela down the aisle. He grinned wider. "And I just won." The guests erupted, some in shock, others in cruel amusement. Phones stayed raised, videos kept recording. Her humiliation was going viral in real time. But what Park Min-jun didn't know, what none of them knew, was who would be watching those videos. Hey family, before this story begins, I want you to do something real quick. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Your comments fuel these stories. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, because what happens next will leave you speechless. 3 months earlier, Daniela Williams had learned from a very young age that the world did not give you anything for free. You either worked for it, or you were crushed by people who already had everything. She stood in front of the mirror in her small but neat apartment, adjusting the collar of her blouse and tying her hair into a low, elegant bun. She didn't own many expensive things, but everything she had was always clean, pressed, and worn with quiet dignity. Her phone buzzed. She already knew who it was. "Good morning, Mr. Kang," she said the moment she answered. Kang Jin-woo's voice came through the line, deep and calm, as always. "You're 5 minutes early." A small smile touched her lips. "You once said being early is better than being late." There was a short pause. Then, "I did." "I'm on my way up," she said. "Good." The call ended. Daniela picked up her bag and left her apartment. 30 minutes later, she was walking into one of the most heavily guarded buildings in the city. No sign on the outside said who owned it, no company name, no logo. But everyone important knew who worked there, Kang Jin-woo. To the public, he was a powerful Korean businessman with interests in logistics, shipping, and private investments. To the underworld, he was something else entirely, a king. And Daniela Williams was his personal assistant. She had worked for him for 2 years. 2 years of perfect schedules, perfect organization, perfect professionalism, and 2 years of never once crossing a line. "Good morning," she said to the security men as she walked in. They bowed slightly. Everyone in the building respected her, not because she was powerful, but because Kang Jin-woo trusted her. She stepped into the private elevator and went straight to the top floor. When the doors opened, she walked into his office. Kang Jin-woo was standing by the window, his back to her, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. He was tall, broad-shouldered, always dressed in dark, simple, expensive suits. He didn't turn when he spoke. "Your schedule is full today." "I know," Daniela replied calmly. "You have the meeting with the Singapore partners at 10, lunch with Chairman Liu at 1, and the evening dinner with the Japanese investors." He nodded slightly. She walked to his desk and began arranging the documents. "You're getting married," he said suddenly. Her hand paused for just half a second. "Yes," she said, "in 3 months." He turned slowly and looked at her. His face was calm, cold, as always. But something dark moved behind his eyes. "To Park Min-jun," he said. "Yes, sir. He's the son of Park Sung-ho." "Yes, sir. He's not a good man." Daniela hesitated. "He's complicated." "That's not a compliment." She gave a small, polite smile. "He's been good to me." Kang Jin-woo studied her for a long moment. "You don't need to marry him." The words came out flat. She looked at him, surprised. "Sir? If you need money, I can—" It's not about money, she said quickly. I love him. The word sat heavy in the air. Kang Jin-woo looked away. I see. There was silence. Then he said, Make sure the contracts are ready. Yes, sir. She hesitated. Are you coming to the wedding? He didn't answer immediately. I don't attend social events, he said finally. Oh, of course. She nodded. I understand. She turned back to her work. She didn't see the way his jaw tightened. Daniela did not fall in love with Park Min-joon in one day. At first, she didn't even trust him. He was too polished, too confident, too comfortable in places she had spent her whole life learning how not to feel small in. Their first real conversation happened after that charity event. He had followed her out to the parking lot, ignoring the looks from his friends. You didn't even look at me the whole night, he said, leaning against his car like he had nowhere else to be. I was working, Daniela replied. That's what I was there for. You're always working, he said. Don't you ever get tired? She hesitated. I don't have the luxury of being tired. He laughed. You talk like someone who's been carrying the world alone. She didn't answer that. He started calling after that. At first, she ignored him. Then she started picking up. Then she started looking forward to it. Min-joon knew how to make people feel chosen. When he was with her, he made the world feel smaller, quieter, like nothing else mattered. He sent flowers to her office, big dramatic arrangements that made the entire floor whisper. Kang Jin-woo noticed. Are these necessary? He asked one morning, looking at the bouquet sitting on the side table. Daniela flushed slightly. I told him not to send them here. Tell him again. Yes, sir. But the flowers kept coming. So did the lunches, the dinners, the little gifts. And slowly, against her better judgment, Daniela let herself believe. The first time Min-joon took her to meet his friends, she knew she didn't belong. They were at an expensive restaurant, the kind where everyone looked like they had never worried about rent in their lives. The women were dressed like they were walking magazines. One of them looked Daniela up and down and smiled. That's her? She asked Min-joon. She's cute. Cute. Daniela smiled politely. Another girl laughed softly. You like simple girls now? Min-joon put an arm around Daniela's waist. I like real girls. They exchanged looks. Daniela felt it, the judgment, the measuring. Later, in the bathroom, she heard them. She really thinks this is serious. Of course she does. Look at her. She's brave, though. Going after a park. Or delusional? Daniela stood at the sink, staring at her reflection, and pretended she didn't hear. That night, she told Min-joon she didn't want to hang out with his friends anymore. They're not bad people, he said lightly. They're just used to a different world. I know, she said. That's the problem. He kissed her and said she was overthinking. She wanted to believe him. Kang Jin-woo did not believe in coincidences. So when he saw Park Min-joon's name appear in 3 different reports from 3 different sources, he didn't ignore it. He had his men look deeper. What they found was not illegal, but it was ugly. Arrogance, gambling, cruel jokes, using people. Jin-woo closed the file and sat in silence for a long time. You don't see it, he said quietly to himself. One evening, Daniela stayed late at the office finishing work. The building was quiet. When she finally stepped out, she realized Min-joon was waiting. You didn't tell me you'd be late, he said, smiling. I didn't plan to be. He handed her a small box. Open it. Inside was a simple ring, not an engagement ring, just a promise ring. I'm serious about you, he said. I want everyone to know. Her heart did something stupid. She should have said no. She didn't. The proposal happened 2 months later. It was big, public, in front of his friends, in front of cameras. When he went down on one knee, everyone was already recording. Daniela hesitated. Then she saw his smile, and she said yes. The applause was loud. The whispers were louder. When she told Kang Jin-woo, he was quiet for a very long time. "You don't have to do this," he said finally. "I want to," she replied. "Because you love him?" "Yes." He looked at her, and for the first time in 2 years, his control cracked. "Love is not enough to protect you from the wrong man." She was startled by the sharpness in his voice. "Sir?" He looked away. "Nothing. Go back to work." Preparations began immediately. Min-jun's mother barely spoke to her. His father barely looked at her. The girls who had once smiled now openly mocked her behind her back. "She's really going to try and become a Park. Imagine. She'll be divorced in a year." Daniela heard everything. She said nothing. One night, alone in his office, Kang Jin-woo poured himself a drink and didn't touch it. 2 years, he said quietly. He had watched her, protected her, kept the worst parts of the world away from her. And now, she was walking straight into a trap he could see. Wedding preparations should have been a happy time. For Daniela, they were a lesson in endurance. Min-jun's mother insisted on choosing everything: the venue, the dress, the guest list, even the flowers. "You don't know this world," she said bluntly when Daniela tried to suggest something simpler. "This wedding is not just about you." Daniela swallowed the words she wanted to say and nodded. Min-jun never noticed, or maybe he did, and just didn't care. He was always busy, always out with his friends, always promising to make it up to her later. Later never came. The girls from his circle were suddenly everywhere. They helped with the wedding, which meant they criticized everything she touched. "This fabric is too cheap. That style doesn't suit her body. She should be grateful we're even letting her have an opinion." Sometimes they said it to her face. Sometimes they said it loud enough for her to hear. Min-jun laughed it off. "They're just joking," he said. "Don't be so sensitive." One afternoon, Daniela overheard something she wasn't supposed to. She'd gone to Min-jun's apartment to bring him some documents he'd forgotten. The door was slightly open. She heard laughter. A man's voice said, "So, what happens after the wedding? You dumping her or keeping her around?" Min-jun laughed. "Depends how bored I am." Another voice said, "You actually went all the way with it. Respect." 50,000 is 50,000, Min-jun replied casually. Daniela froze. Her hand tightened around the folder. She told herself she must have misunderstood. She told herself not to be paranoid. She walked away without saying anything. That night he held her and told her he loved her. She tried to believe him. At the office, Kang Jin-woo noticed the changes. She smiled less. She ate less. She worked more. "You're tired," he said one evening. "I'm fine," she replied automatically. "You're lying." She looked at him, surprised. He rarely ever said things like that. "It's just the wedding stress," she said. He studied her for a long moment. "If you want to stop this," he said quietly, "I can make it disappear." She shook her head. "It's too late." It wasn't, but she didn't know that. The dress fitting was a nightmare. Min-jun's mother brought 3 of her friends. They sat like judges. "This one makes her look short. That one shows too much. This one is acceptable." Daniela felt like a product. When she finally found one she liked, Min-jun's mother said, "It's fine for someone like you." A week before the wedding, one of the girls accidentally spilled red wine on Daniela's dress during a dinner. "Oh my God," she said, covering her mouth, eyes sparkling. "I'm so clumsy." They all laughed. Min-jun sighed. "It's just a dress. We'll get another." Daniela went to the bathroom and cried quietly. That same night, Kang Jin-woo stood in front of a man kneeling on the floor. "Park Min-jun," Jin-woo said calmly. "What kind of man is he?" The man swallowed. "Not a good one." "Be specific." "He likes games. He likes humiliating people. He likes winning at any cost." Jin-woo closed his eyes for a brief moment. "Keep watching him," he said, "and don't let her get hurt." The man hesitated. "Sir, she already is." The night before the wedding, Daniela couldn't sleep. She sat on the edge of the bed staring at her phone. She almost called Kang Jin-woo. Almost. She didn't. Park Min-joon slept very well that night. The morning of the wedding arrived too quickly. Daniela woke up before her alarm and lay there staring at the ceiling, her heart heavy for reasons she couldn't fully explain. Her phone buzzed. A message from Min-joon. Big day. Don't be late. No, I love you. No, I can't wait to see you. She told herself she was being silly. The bridal suite was already full when she arrived. Makeup artists, stylists, Min-joon's mother, and 3 of the same girls who had made the past months miserable. They smiled too much. You're finally becoming one of us, one of them said lightly. Another added, well, sort of. They laughed. Daniela smiled and said nothing. Her phone rang. It was Kang Jin-woo. He almost never called her directly. Yes, sir? Are you busy? She hesitated. It's the wedding. Silence. Then, you can still stop this. Her chest tightened. Why do you keep saying that? Because some doors shouldn't be opened. She forced a laugh. You sound like you're talking about a business deal. I'm not. She didn't know what to say to that. I should go, she said, softly. They're calling me. Daniela. She paused. Whatever happens today, he said, remember you can always come back. Her throat tightened. Thank you, sir. The call ended. At the church, guests were already arriving. Expensive cars lined the street. Inside, people whispered and laughed and took pictures. The girls from Min-joon's circle stood together, glancing toward the entrance, phones already in their hands. Do you think he'll actually go through with it? One of them asked. He has to. The bet's already placed. They laughed quietly. Back in the bridal room, Daniela stood in front of the mirror in her dress. She looked beautiful, but she didn't feel like it. Min-joon's mother looked her over. Try not to embarrass us, she said flatly. Daniela nodded. The music started. The doors opened. Everyone turned to look at her. She walked down the aisle, her hands shaking slightly, her heart beating too fast. Min-joon stood at the front, smiling. For a moment, she relaxed. Maybe she had been wrong. Maybe everything would be okay. In the crowd, several phones were already raised, recording, waiting. When she reached the front, Min-joon took her hands. They were cold. The minister smiled and began. And somewhere else in the city, Kang Jin-woo stood in front of a screen, watching a live feed he hadn't asked for but had been sent anyway. His expression didn't change, but his eyes darkened. The minister's voice echoed softly through the church. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of... Daniela tried to breathe. She focused on Min-joon's face. He looked calm, almost amused. The minister turned to her first. Do you take Park Min-joon to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love him, honor him, and cherish him, for as long as you both shall live? Her throat tightened. I do. A few people clapped softly. The minister smiled and turned to Min-joon. And do you take Daniela Williams to be your lawfully wedded wife? Min-joon laughed, not softly, not nervously. He laughed like he was in a bar with his friends. Sorry, he said, raising a hand. I can't keep this up anymore. The room went quiet. Daniela's smile faded. What? He turned slightly, looking at the guests, at the phones, at his friends. Then he looked back at her. You really thought I loved you? He said loudly. This whole thing, the dates, the proposal, this wedding, it was all a bet. For a second, no one spoke. Then someone laughed. Then another. Daniela felt the floor tilt beneath her. A what? She whispered. A bet. Min-joon said easily. $50,000 says I couldn't get the untouchable Daniela down the aisle. He grinned. And I just won. The church exploded. Some people gasped. Others laughed openly. The girls in the front row covered their mouths, eyes shining. I told you. She really thought. This is too good. Phones were everywhere now. No one was even pretending to hide it. They were recording her face, her shaking hands, her broken expression. Daniela couldn't hear the minister anymore, or the music, or anything. Her ears were ringing. Minjun leaned closer and said quietly, "You should see yourself right now." Something inside her broke. She pulled her hands away from him and took a step back, then another, then she turned and ran. She didn't remember how she got out of the church. She only remembered the sound of laughter following her, and the flashes, so many flashes. Outside, the air felt cold and sharp. She stumbled down the steps and almost fell. Someone called her name. Someone else laughed. A car door opened. She didn't know whose car it was. She just got in, and then she started to cry. By the time she got home, her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages, notifications, mentions. Someone had already posted the video, then another, then another. Wedding bet was trending. She threw her phone on the bed and curled up on the floor. She didn't remember how long she stayed there. In his office, Kang Jin-woo watched the video once, then again. Then he paused it on her face. The room was silent. No one spoke. No one breathed too loudly. "Who did this?" he asked calmly. "Park Min-jun," someone answered. Jin-woo nodded, and everyone who laughed. Park Min-jun was having the best day of his life. He was still laughing with his friends. "Did you see her face? That was legendary. Worth every one." His phone buzzed, a message from his father. "What did you do?" He ignored it. Daniela did not leave her apartment for 3 days. On the 4th day, she turned off her phone. On the 5th day, she packed a bag. On the 6th day, she disappeared. The world did not forget. It didn't even slow down. The video was everywhere. Clips, memes, reactions, commentary videos. People who had never met Daniela Williams were laughing at her pain. She should have known. Gold Digger got played. Serves her right. Every time someone shared it, it spread again. Park Min-jun enjoyed it for exactly 2 days. On the 3rd day, things started to go wrong. The first sign was small. One of his father's business partners canceled a meeting. Then another delayed a contract. Then a bank suddenly started asking questions. "Probably nothing," Min-jun said carelessly. But his father did not look convinced. In a dark conference room, Kang Jin-woo listened as his men reported. "We traced her last location," one of them said. "She left the city." "Find her," Jin-woo said. "Yes, sir." "And Park Min-jun?" The man hesitated. "We're in position." Jin-woo's eyes were cold. "Don't touch him yet." Min-jun started losing invitations. People stopped returning his calls. At a club, someone who used to laugh with him pretended not to see him. "What's going on?" he asked one of his friends. The friend shrugged. "Probably just business politics." But his voice wasn't steady. Daniela was in a small coastal town, in a cheap guest house, trying to forget her name. She didn't turn on the TV. She didn't open social media. She walked by the sea and told herself that if she just stayed quiet long enough, the world would move on. It didn't. Kang Jin-woo found her on the 7th day. He didn't go himself. He sent someone he trusted. When Daniela opened the door and saw the man, she almost closed it again. "Miss Williams," he said gently, "Mr. Kang is worried." "I don't work for him anymore," she said. "He knows." She hesitated. "He wants to make sure you're safe." "I don't need anything from him." The man looked at her for a long moment. "Then at least let us take you somewhere safer." She laughed weakly. "From what? The internet?" He didn't answer. In the city, Park Sung-ho finally lost his patience. "Investors are pulling out," he snapped at his son. "Do you know what kind of enemies you make when you embarrass people publicly?" "She was nobody," Min-jun said. "You're overreacting." His father stared at him. "That's what worries me." Kang Jin-woo sat alone that night, a glass of untouched whiskey in front of him. "She trusted the wrong man," he said quietly. Someone answered, "You warned her." He shook his head. I didn't stop her. The first real blow landed a week later. Park Sung-ho's company was suddenly under investigation. Old deals were being reopened. Old partners were being questioned. Nothing illegal had been done, but everything was being looked at. Min-jun finally felt it. "Dad," he said, uneasy, "is someone messing with us?" His father didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "Yes." In the guest house, Daniela finally broke. She sat on the bed and cried until her chest hurt. When her phone rang, she didn't answer. When it rang again, she threw it against the wall. Kang Jin-woo stood up and made a decision. "Bring her back," he said, gently. "And Park Min-jun?" He paused. "Let him keep laughing," Jin-woo said, "for now." Daniela did not agree to go back to the city, not at first. When Kang Jin-woo's men finally found her again, she was sitting in a small cafe by the sea, staring at a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. "Miss Williams," the man said gently, "please, just talk to him." "I don't want to," she replied without looking up. "He's worried." She laughed quietly. "That makes one of us. He's not asking as your boss." That finally made her look up. "Then what is he asking as?" The man hesitated. "As a man who has failed to protect someone important to him." That hit harder than she expected. She stood up. "I'm not going back to that city." "You don't have to," he said, "but you can't stay here either. People know your face now. Someone already asked the guest house owner if you were here." Her stomach dropped. She didn't go back to the city. She went somewhere else. A quiet house outside it, surrounded by trees, guarded, safe. And the moment she stepped inside, she knew exactly whose territory she was in. Kang Jin-woo was standing by the window, just like always. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she said, "You shouldn't have brought me here." "I didn't," he replied. "I offered. You came." She looked at him. "Because I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice." She laughed bitterly. "Not when the whole world is laughing at you." He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, "You can stay until things calm down. And then? And then you can go wherever you want." She studied his face. "Why are you really doing this?" He met her eyes. "Because I don't like seeing what's mine broken." The words came out before he could soften them. The room went very quiet. She stared at him. "I'm not something you own." "I know," he said immediately. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He looked away. "That you matter." That night, Daniela didn't sleep. Neither did Kang Jin-woo. The next morning, she tried to leave. She made it to the front door before two men gently but firmly stepped into her path. "They're not stopping you," Jin-woo said from behind her. "They're stopping anyone from following you." She turned slowly. "So I'm a prisoner?" "No," he said. "You're under protection." "That's not the same thing." "Not to me." In the city, Park Min-jun was starting to panic. Another deal fell through. Another friend stopped answering his calls. At a restaurant, a man he had known for years stood up and moved tables when he saw him. "What the hell is going on?" Min-jun muttered. His father's face was dark. "You offended someone much bigger than you." Min-jun laughed nervously. "Who? Over a stupid girl?" His father's eyes sharpened. "That's what scares me." Back at the house, Daniela and Jin-woo began to exist in the same space again, awkwardly, carefully. She avoided him. He didn't force her to stay in any room. He didn't force her to talk. He just made sure she was safe. Every day. Quietly. One afternoon, she finally snapped. "Why do you keep doing this?" she demanded. "Why do you care so much?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Because I always have." Silence fell between them. She laughed weakly. "You're my boss." "Yes, that's all." He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, "No." That night, she had a nightmare. She was back in the church. They were laughing again. She woke up shaking. And before she could stop herself, she walked down the hall. She didn't knock. She just opened the door to his room. He was awake. Of course he was. He sat up immediately when he saw her. "Daniela." Her voice broke. "I can't make it stop." He didn't ask what she meant. He just stood and walked to her. For 1 second, he hesitated. Then he put his arms around her. She cried against his chest like something inside her had finally given up. He didn't touch her hair, didn't touch her waist, just held her like she might shatter. After that, things changed. Not dramatically, but quietly. She started eating again. She started talking again. She started laughing, a little. And he watched it all like a man starving who refused to eat. One evening, she asked, "Why didn't you come to the wedding?" His jaw tightened. "Because I knew I would stop it." She looked at him. "You could have." "Yes." "Why didn't you?" "Because you loved him." The words sounded like they hurt. In another part of the city, Park Sung-ho sat in a dark room with people who no longer smiled. "They're bleeding us slowly," one man said. "Who?" Sung-ho asked. "That's the problem. We don't know." Kang Jin-woo watched reports come in. "Phase 1 is done," one of his men said. Jin-woo nodded. "And Park Min-jun? He's still laughing in public." Jin-woo's eyes were cold. "He won't be for long." That night, Daniela stood on the balcony looking at the city lights. "I don't want revenge," she said quietly. Jin-woo stood beside her. "I know. But you want it." "Yes." She looked at him. "For me. For what they did to you." She swallowed. "What if I just want to disappear?" He looked at her. "Then I will build you a world where they can never touch you again." In the distance, Park Min-jun's world was already burning. He just hadn't smelled the smoke yet. The first time Daniela realized she was starting to feel safe again, it scared her. Safety meant attachment. Attachment meant pain. She kept telling herself she was only staying because she had nowhere else to go. But the truth was quieter and more dangerous. She stayed because Kang Jin-woo was there. They started having breakfast together, not on purpose. She would come into the kitchen and he would already be there, reading something on his tablet, a cup of black coffee in front of him. "Good morning," he would say. "Good morning." Sometimes that was all. Sometimes they talked about nothing. Sometimes about work. Sometimes about the weather. And sometimes about things they carefully avoided finishing. One morning she asked, "How many people know where I am?" "Very few," he replied, "and none of them would sell that information." She looked at him. "You trust them that much?" "I don't trust easily," he said. "That's why the ones I trust never betray me." The way he said it made her shiver. In the city, Park Sung-ho was no longer calm. "They're squeezing us," he snapped. "Slowly, quietly. Our cash flow is tightening." "We can survive it," Min-jun said. "You're panicking over nothing." His father looked at him with something like disbelief. "You humiliated someone publicly. Someone answered, and you're still laughing." Min-jun frowned. "We don't even know who." "That's the point," Sung-ho said. "They tried to strike back, not directly. They started digging, asking questions, paying people. One name kept coming up, Kang. They couldn't get anything solid, but the shadow of it was enough to make Sung-ho uneasy. At the house, Daniela tried to feel normal again. She started working remotely. She reorganized Jin-woo's schedule out of habit. One evening, he noticed. "You don't work for me anymore," he said. She looked up from the tablet. "I know. Old habits." He studied her. "You can stop any time." "I don't want to." The words slipped out. They both went quiet. That night, the attack came. It was small, clumsy. 2 men tried to get through the outer gate. They were caught in less than 10 seconds, but it was enough. Daniela stood in the hallway in her robe, her heart pounding. Jin-woo was already giving orders. "Take them away." She grabbed his arm. "What's happening?" They were testing us, he said calmly. They won't try that again. Who sent them? He didn't answer immediately. Does it matter? She looked at him. Yes. He met her eyes. Park Min-jun's father is not as stupid as his son. Her stomach dropped. In a dark room, Park Sung-ho listened to the report. They didn't even get close, the man said. Security is heavy. Sung-ho closed his eyes. This is bigger than we thought. After the attempt, Jin-woo doubled security. Daniela didn't argue. That scared her more than anything else. They sat on the balcony that night, the city far away and quiet. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. For what? For dragging you into this. He looked at her like she had said something absurd. You didn't drag me. I walked in. Why? He was silent for a long time. Then he said, because some things are worth burning the world for. Her breath caught. She looked at him. He didn't look back. The next day, Park Min-jun finally felt real fear. His favorite club refused him entry. At another place, a waiter told him there was no table for him. At home, his father threw a glass against the wall. They're isolating us, Sung-ho said, slowly, methodically. So what do we do? Min-jun asked. Sung-ho looked at him. We find the girl. Daniela felt it before it happened, that strange, cold feeling that something was wrong. She told Jin-woo. He listened. Then he said, they're getting desperate. 2 nights later, the second attempt came. This time it wasn't clumsy. A convoy blocked road, gunfire in the distance. Daniela was rushed into a safe room. She heard nothing. But when Jin-woo came back, his sleeve was stained with blood. Not his. Her hand started to shake. Is it over? For tonight, he said. She looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time, she understood. This was his world, and she was standing in the middle of it. In Park Sung-ho's house, a man said quietly, We're losing. Sung-ho stared at the wall. No, he said. We're not. We're just not playing the right game. That night, Daniela couldn't sleep. She walked into Jin-woo's office. You said, you'd build me a world they can't touch, she said. Yes. And what if that world destroys everything else? He looked at her. Then we'll build another one. In the city, Park Min-jun made a decision that would ruin him. Park Min-jun did not think of himself as a coward. He thought of himself as unlucky. Everything that was happening felt unreal to him. 1 month ago, he had been the center of every room. Now doors closed in his face. This is your fault, he snapped at his father. You should have crushed him first. Sung-ho's face was pale. We didn't know who he was. Min-jun laughed harshly. Then find a way to end it. Sung-ho looked at him for a long time. We already tried, he said quietly. Not hard enough. The plan was simple. Too simple. Find the girl. Use her. Force a negotiation. Daniela went with the security team that day. She didn't want to, but Jin-woo insisted. You're not a prisoner, he told her, but you are a target. I just want to breathe normal air, she replied. You will, with guards. She rolled her eyes. Romantic. He almost smiled. They were halfway back from a quiet lunch in a small town when the road ahead suddenly closed. 2 trucks. Too sudden. Too clean. Stop, the driver said immediately. Everything happened in seconds. Gunshots, shouting, the car jerked violently. Jin-woo was not in this car. That was the mistake. Daniela didn't even have time to scream. Someone pulled the door open. Hands grabbed her. A cloth was pressed to her face. The world went dark. When she woke up, her head hurt. Her wrists were tied. She was in a chair, a warehouse, cold, smelling of oil and dust. Park Min-jun stood in front of her. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. You, she whispered. He smiled nervously. Hi, Daniela. She stared at him. Are you insane? Probably, he said. But, you see, you made powerful enemies. Her laugh was weak. You are my powerful enemy. He flinched. You don't get it, he said. This is business. In the city, Kang Jin-woo's world went silent. No reports, no tracking, no signal. He stood in the middle of the room and said one word, "Find." And the city moved. Min-jun paced in front of her. Your boss, he said. He's squeezing us. We just want to talk. You kidnapped me, Daniela said. You don't want to talk. You want to threaten. Min-jun's face darkened. You should have stayed in your place. That hurt more than she expected. Kang Jin-woo did not shout. He did not panic. He became very, very calm. Close every road, he said. Every port, every airport. Phones rang. Men moved. Someone said, "This will start a war." Jin-woo replied, "It already did." In the warehouse, time moved strangely. Min-jun's men were nervous. They kept checking their phones. Something's wrong, one of them whispered. Min-jun ignored him. He sat in front of Daniela. You know, he said, you really ruined my life. She looked at him like he was nothing. You ruined your own. He slapped her. Not hard, but enough. The sound echoed. He looked shocked at himself, then angry. When Jin-woo found the location, he did not negotiate. He arrived with enough men to erase the building. The first gunshot was the last warning anyone got. Daniela heard the noise first, then the shouting, then the screams. Min-jun stood up, panicking. What's happening? She smiled for the first time in weeks. He's here. The door exploded inward. Chaos followed. Jin-woo walked through it like death itself. When he saw her tied to a chair, something in his eyes broke. He crossed the room in 3 steps, untied her, pulled her into his arms. She shook. You're okay, he said over and over. You're okay. She buried her face in his chest. I knew you'd come, she whispered. Min-jun tried to run. He didn't get far. Jin-woo looked at him once. Don't kill him, Daniela said quietly. Jin-woo froze. She looked at him. Don't become like them. He studied her face. Then he nodded. Park Min-jun was taken away screaming. That night, Daniela sat in silence, wrapped in a blanket. Jin-woo sat across from her. I'm sorry, he said. I should have been there. You always come, she said. That's what matters. He looked at her, and in that moment, he stopped lying to himself. Somewhere else Park Sung-ho knew. Daniela did not sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the rope on her wrists again, smelled the dust, heard Min-jun's voice. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Kang Jin-woo knocked once before entering. You should rest, he said quietly. I'm afraid, she replied just as quietly. He crossed the room and sat in the chair near her bed. Of sleeping? Of waking up and realizing it wasn't over. He looked at her for a long moment. It's over. She shook her head. It doesn't feel like it. He didn't argue. He stayed. The next days passed slowly. Doctors came. Security increased. The house became quieter and heavier at the same time. Daniela tried to be normal. She failed. One afternoon, she dropped a glass and burst into tears. Jin-woo was there in seconds. He didn't ask questions. He just held her until she could breathe again. You shouldn't be this kind to me, she said one evening. Why? Because I don't know what to do with it, he answered honestly. Neither do I. They started having dinner together, not because they planned it, because neither of them wanted to eat alone. Sometimes they talked about small things, sometimes about nothing, sometimes about things that almost became something else. One night, she finally asked, How long? He looked at her. How long what? How long have you been watching me like this? He didn't pretend not to understand. 2 years, he said. Her breath caught. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because I didn't want to destroy you. She looked at him. By loving me? By pulling you into my world. Silence stretched between them. Then she said, You saved me. He shook his head. I didn't save you. I failed to protect you the first time. She moved closer. You came back for me. His voice was low. I will always come back for you. That was the first time they almost kissed. Almost. She stopped inches away. This is too fast, she whispered. He closed his eyes. I know. He stepped back. In another part of the city, Park Sung-ho was planning. They had nothing left to lose. They took my son, he said. They took my company. They took everything. A man across from him said quietly, then hit what he cares about. Sung-ho's eyes hardened. The first sign was a scandal. Articles started appearing, anonymous sources, stories about Kang Jin-woo, about illegal businesses, about blood. Some were true, most were exaggerated, but it was enough to make noise. Let them talk, Jin-woo said calmly, but Daniela saw the tension in his shoulders. Then came the threat. A message. A public fall is more painful than a private death. Jin-woo stared at the screen for a long time. Then he said, they're going to try something stupid. That night, Daniela walked into his office. I don't want to hide anymore, she said. He looked up. You shouldn't be visible right now. I'm tired of being afraid. He studied her face. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking, she said. If they're coming for you because of me, then I want to stand where they can see me. His voice was dangerous. They will try to hurt you again. Then let them see they failed. He stood up and walked to her. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he said very quietly, if you stand beside me publicly, there is no going back. She answered just as quietly, I'm not running anymore. He touched her face for the first time, not possessively, not urgently, like he was afraid she might disappear. I love you, he said. The words felt like a confession and a promise at the same time. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to love a man like you, she whispered. You don't have to, he said. Just don't leave. She shook her head. I'm not going anywhere. This time, when they kissed, she didn't stop him. In the shadows, Park Sung-ho watched the news. Good, he said. Let them come out into the light. The invitation arrived the next morning, a charity gala, high society, media everywhere. Kang Jin-woo rarely attended such events. This time, he accepted. You're sure? Daniela asked. Yes, he said. If they want a public stage, we'll give them one. She looked at him. They're not going to stop. I know. And you're not afraid? He looked at her. I am. That's why I'm doing this properly. The city talked for days before the event. Why would Kang Jin-woo show his face? Why would he bring her? Was he confirming the rumors? On the night of the gala, the cameras were already waiting. When his car arrived, the crowd leaned forward. First, Kang Jin-woo stepped out. Then he turned and offered his hand. Daniela took it. The flash of cameras was blinding. Whispers spread like fire. That's her. The wedding girl. She disappeared. She came back. They walked in like they belonged there. Because they did. Inside, Park Sung-ho went very still. Park Min-joon was pale. That's her, Min-joon whispered. Sung-ho's jaw tightened. So that's the man. They didn't hide. They didn't avoid anyone. Kang Jin-woo wanted them to see. The speech was scheduled for 10 minutes later. Before it began, a man stepped onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, smiling, we have some important announcements regarding recent investigations into financial misconduct in our business community. Park Sung-ho felt the blood drain from his face. Screens lit up. Documents appeared. Names, accounts, transactions, deals that should never have been seen. People started whispering, then standing, then leaving tables. Park Sung-ho tried to stand. His legs failed him. Police entered the hall, quietly, professionally. They walked straight to his table. Park Sung-ho, you are under arrest. Min-joon stood up. You can't. They ignored him. Min Jun looked around desperately, and then he saw her, Daniela, standing beside Kang Jinwoo, calm, untouchable. "This is your fault," Min Jun shouted. Some people turned. Some recognized him. Whispers started again. "That's the groom. The bet guy. He kidnapped her." Min Jun rushed toward them. Security stopped him immediately. He struggled. "Daniela," he shouted, "you ruined my life." She looked at him, really looked at him, and said calmly, "You ruined your own." The reporters were already recording, already posting. This time, the story was different. Kang Jinwoo took the microphone. His voice carried easily. "Some of you know who I am. Most of you know what I do. Tonight is not about me." He looked at Daniela. "It's about her." He turned back to the crowd. 3 months ago, she was humiliated in public by a man who thought cruelty was entertainment. You laughed. You shared it. You turned a human being into content. The room went quiet. She survived, and she is here. He put his hand on her back. And anyone who thinks that what happened to her was acceptable should leave now. No one moved. Outside, Park Sung-ho was being taken away. Min Jun collapsed into a chair, shaking. Everything was gone. Later that night, Daniela stood on the balcony of the venue, looking at the city lights again. "This feels unreal," she said. "It's just the beginning," Jinwoo replied. She looked at him. "They'll never laugh again." He looked at her. "No, they'll remember." The world had finally learned the truth. The girl who was once a joke belonged to a king. The city did not sleep after the gala. By morning, every major news outlet had a headline: "The fall of Park Sung-ho, the arrest, the exposed accounts, the mysterious power behind it all, and of course, Daniela." This time, the videos were different. Not of her crying, not of her being humiliated, but of her walking beside Kang Jinwoo, calm, elegant, untouchable. People argued online. Some apologized. Some pretended they had never laughed. Some said she had planned it all along. Daniela didn't read any of it. She turned her phone off and left it on the table. Life did not become magically easy, but it became quieter, safer. She moved out of the house in the woods and into a new apartment. Not because Jinwoo wanted her to, because she wanted her own space again. He didn't argue. He just made sure the building was the safest one in the city. They did not rush anything. No dramatic declarations. No fairy tale urgency. They had both been broken in different ways. So they learned each other slowly. He would come over in the evenings. Sometimes they ate. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in silence. And for the first time in a long time, silence did not hurt. One night she asked him, "What happens now?" He thought, "About it." "Now you live," she smiled. "That's it? That's everything." The trial began quietly. Park Sung-ho did not look powerful anymore. Min Jun did not look arrogant anymore. When Daniela was asked to testify, she was afraid. Jinwoo did not tell her what to do. He only said, "Whatever you choose, I'll be there." She went. She told the truth. She did not look at Min Jun. Afterward, she felt light, like something old had finally been put down. One evening, months later, she and Jinwoo stood on the balcony of her new place. The city lights stretched endlessly. "You could leave all of this," she said. "Disappear, start somewhere new." He looked at her. "Would you?" She thought about it. Then she said, "No." He nodded. "Neither would I." He took her hand. No audience, no cameras, no drama, just them. "I won't promise you a clean world," he said, "or a safe one." She looked at him. "I don't need perfect. I need honest." He smiled slightly. "Then stay." She did. Somewhere in a prison cell, Park Min Jun finally understood something, but it was far too late. Daniela returned to work. Not as his assistant, but as herself. She started a small foundation for women who had been publicly shamed and destroyed by the internet. She didn't announce it loudly. She just did it. One night, she said to Jin-woo, "You didn't just save me." He looked at her. "I know." "You reminded me who I was." He answered quietly. "You never forgot. You were just hurt." The world moved on, but Daniela did not forget. And she did not need revenge anymore. She had something better. The world did not end. That surprised Daniela. After everything that had happened, she had half expected life to feel different, louder, heavier, or maybe unreal. Instead, it felt simple. The days came and went. She woke up. She worked. She laughed sometimes. She cooked badly and burned food and blamed the stove. She walked in the evenings and watched the city lights and reminded herself that she was still here, alive, free. Kang Jin-woo did not change who he was. He was still dangerous, still feared, still a man whose name could open doors or close them forever. But around her, he was careful. He did not cage her, did not control her, did not turn her life into a golden prison. He let her choose, and that mattered more than anything else. One evening, months after the trial ended, he came to her apartment later than usual. His jacket was off. His tie was loosened. His eyes were tired. She poured him a drink without asking. "Bad day?" she asked. He nodded. Long. She sat beside him. "Do you ever get tired of this world?" He looked at her. "Every day." "Why don't you leave?" He studied her face for a long moment. "Because not everyone gets to walk away from the things they built," he said. "But I've started changing how mine works." She smiled. "Good." They did not talk about marriage. They did not talk about forever. Not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't need to rush something that finally felt real. One afternoon, Daniela was invited to speak at a small event. Nothing fancy, just a room with people who had been hurt by the internet, by rumors, by public shame. She stood at the front and felt her hands shake. Then she remembered the church, the laughter, the cameras, and she spoke anyway. "I didn't survive because I was strong," she said. "I survived because I refused to let one moment become my whole life." Some people cried. Some nodded. Some just listened. When she was done, she felt lighter than she had in years. That night, Jin-woo said, "You were brave today." She looked at him. "No, I was honest." He smiled slightly. "That's rarer." Park Min-joon was sentenced quietly. There were no cameras. No applause, no laughter, just a man sitting in a courtroom, finally understanding that some mistakes cannot be laughed away. Park Sung-ho would never regain his power, and no one who mattered felt sorry for him. Life moved forward. One evening, almost a year after the wedding that never was, Jin-woo took Daniela somewhere unexpected. A quiet hill overlooking the city. No guards in sight, no audience, just the wind and the lights far below. "I used to come here when I needed to remember why I started everything," he said. "And why did you?" she asked. He was quiet for a long time, to never be powerless again. She looked at him. "And now?" He turned to her. "Now I want to build something I don't have to defend with blood." Her breath caught. He took something out of his pocket, not a ring, a simple necklace. Inside it was a small plain key. "This is the key to a house," he said. "Far from here. No guards, no headlines, no one who knows our names." She looked at him. "Is this an escape?" "It's an option," he said, "for any day you decide this world is too heavy." She closed her fingers around the key. "And you?" "I'll come if you ask me to." She smiled softly. "I'm not ready to disappear," she said. He nodded. "Neither am I." But now she knew they could. They stood there quietly watching the city. Two people who had survived different kinds of darkness. Later that night, she said, "Do you ever think about that day?" He didn't need to ask which one. "Yes," he said. "Does it still make you angry?" He thought about it. "Not anymore," he said. "It reminds me why I never hesitate when it comes to you." She rested her head on his shoulder. Time passed, and something unexpected happened. Daniela stopped being afraid of being seen, not because she forgot, but because she understood something deeper. Shame only lives where you let it. 1 year later, she walked into a charity gala again. Different dress, different man, different life. Some people recognized her, some whispered, some looked away. She didn't care. She walked in with Kang Jin-woo at her side, calm and unbreakable. This time, no one laughed. Later, standing by a window, she said, "It's strange." "What is?" "This used to be the kind of place that terrified me. And now? And now I realize it never had any power over me. I just thought it did." He looked at her with something close to pride. That night, in the quiet of her apartment, she asked him a question she had been holding inside for a long time. "Why me?" He answered without hesitation. "Because you never tried to use me." She laughed softly. "That's a low bar." "For men like me," he said, "it's a rare one." They did not need fireworks. They did not need a public promise. They only needed to keep choosing each other. And Daniela finally understood something that would stay with her for the rest of her life. The worst day of your life can either define you or redirect you. She had lost a wedding, but she had found herself, and she had found a man who would burn a world and build a better one. Sometimes humiliation is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the moment your real story begins. Never let the cruelty of others convince you that you are small. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. Drop a comment below and tell me what you would have done if you were in her place.